Johnny Tremain, A Story of Boston in Revolt by Esther Forbes. This is Chapter 1, Part 2. Mr. Laffan, as befitted his venerable years and his dignity as master of the house, sat in an armchair at the head of the table. He was a peaceful, kind, remote old man. Although his daughter-in-law was always nagging him to collect bills, finish work when promised, and discipline his apprentices, nothing she said seemed to touch him. He did not even bother to listen. His dull, groping eyes lingered kindly over the boys as they trooped in for breakfast. "Good morning, Dusty. Good morning, Johnny. Good morning, sir." He took his time blessing the meal. He was a deacon at the Cockerel Church and very pious. Breakfast was good, although no more a poor artisan could afford: milk and ale, gruel, sausages, and cornbread. Everything was plentiful and well cooked. The kitchen was as clean or clearer than many of those in the great houses. Every member of the household had a clean shirt or petticoat. Mrs. Laffan was a great manager, but she cared nothing for genteel manners, and was the first to laugh at Dorcas's "If it please you, mother, just a touch more maple syrup for me." Gimme that there syrup pitcher," was good enough for her. When the meal was over, Mr. Laffan took Madge to hand him the family, told Madge to hand him the family Bible. "Johnny, I'm going to ask you to read to us today." Of the three boys, only Johnny read easily and well. His mother had lived long enough to see to that. Dove stumbled shamefully. Dusty usually had the first chapter of Genesis, so that by reading the same thing over and over, he might eventually learn. Madge and Dorcas never cared even to try to read. Mrs. Laffan could not so much as write her name. "Book larnin'," she declared, "scalded no pigs." Scylla was so anxious to learn and teach Isana that whenever Johnny read, she leaned over the book and shaped the words to herself as he said them. They sat beside each other at table. To help her, Johnny always kept a finger on the lines as he read. Johnny now opened the book, keeping it between himself and Scylla. "Where, sir, shall I read?" Mr. Laffan's selection for his boys were sometimes designed to point out some fault in a member of his household, especially in the reader. Dove was always being asked to read about sluggards and going to ants. Johnny was told where to begin in Leviticus. "Ye shall make you no idols, nor graven images, neither rear you up a standing image." What was old master driving at? Could a silversmith put a dragon's snout on a chocolate pot? Soon the surging roll of the words, the pleasure of the sound of his voice coming so clearly out of his mouth, made him stop looking for possible object lessons in the text. Scylla was leaning over him, breathing hard in her efforts to keep up. Mrs. Laffan sat agape. Soon she'd be saying it was just like having a preacher live with them to hear Johnny Tremain read Holy Writ. Finish with the 19th verse. "And I will break the pride of your power, and I will make your heaven as iron, and your earth as brass." Turn to Proverbs 11, 2nd verse. "When pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom." Proverbs 16:18. "Pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall." Now close the book. Stand up and expound to us all the meaning of God's word. Johnny stood up. His skin was thin, and he could feel himself flush. So the old gentleman was after him for his pride again, was he? It was all another way of saying, God's way of saying, that pride goeth before a fall. Yes, and why? Because God doesn't like pride. Johnny sounded sulky. Do you think God would like you? Well, not especially. Dusty was the first to snicker. What does God like? Humble people, said Johnny wrathfully. He sends punishment to people who are too proud. Now, Johnny, I want you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Johnny Tremain. I, Johnny Tremain, swear from this day onward to walk more humbly and modestly before God and man. To walk more humbly and not honest and modestly toward God and man. Just because some folks are not so smart, the old master gave Dove and Dusty a pitying glance. It's no reason why other folks should go around rubbing their noses in their own stupidities. Either Dove or Dusty kicked Johnny under the table. Madge and Dorcas were giggling. Mrs. Laffin was already scraping the trenches clean, getting on with her work. She did not hold much by Grandpa's soul-searching. The master, followed by Dove and Dusty, left for the shop. Johnny heard Scylla give an exaggeratedly pious sigh. He stopped. When the meek inherit the earth, she said, I doubt Johnny gets as much as one divot of sod. This was too much for Johnny. He turned on the little girls. When they do, he stormed. Syl, you can just about keep your mouth shut until then. You know you did look pretty funny standing up there and saying all those humbling things Grandpa told you to. Isana was almost jumping out of her pinafore in glee. Johnny's mad, she chanted. Johnny's mad. Yes, murmured Scylla, looking at him critically. You're right, baby dear. His ears are red. That's always a sign. That always means he's mad. Johnny's ears are red, squealed Isana. They are red. Johnny stalked out of the kitchen as stiff-legged as a fighting tomcat. His ears were scarlet. The end of Chapter 1, Part 2.